My name is Mateo, and until very recently I would have said I was happily married. I had been with Laura for 9 years, 6 of them living under the same roof, paying the same mortgage, sharing a routine I mistook for stability. She had always been explosive, direct, one of those people who claim they're made for big things, even though they never quite managed to make any of them happen. I, on the other hand, was the calm type of man who believes love is shown in the little things. Coming home exhausted from work and still stopping at the supermarket, so there's never anything missing at home. That night, I began to understand that the only things we had truly shared over the years were my patience and her contempt. Laura was standing in front of the bedroom mirror under the harsh white light of the vanity, every stroke of her makeup illuminated. She was wearing a short, tight black dress she hadn't worn with me in ages. The expensive perfume I'd given her for her birthday hung in the air, but it no longer reminded me of her. It reminded me of the version of herself she only brought out when she was going out with the girls. That euphemism had lately come to mean coming home at 3 or 4 in the morning with easy laughter, smudged mascara, and a strange smell on her clothes that definitely wasn't mine. I was sitting on the edge of the bed, shirt hastily ironed, tie not half loose. I had just gotten home after 12 hours of calls, hysterical bosses, and a report no one would ever read in full. I had stopped at the bank, paid the mortgage, electricity, water, internet, and picked up some bread for breakfast. The everyday, the boring, the things that keep a house standing even if no one applauds them. Laura, while applying her red lipstick, dropped the sentence as casually as if she were commenting on the weather. I put up with you for years. Now it's my turn to enjoy life. The silence that followed was so thick, I could hear the faint buzz of the light bulb. I felt the blow in my stomach, not from surprise, but because those words said out loud something I had suspected for a long time. To her, I wasn't a partner. I was a burden she had endured in exchange for comfort. "What did you say?" I asked quietly. She rolled her eyes in a mirror as if I were a stupid child who didn't get a joke. "You heard me, Mateo." She turned to face me, one hand on her hip. "I put up with you for years. Your personality, your quirks, your constant. I have to get up early tomorrow with all your responsibilities. Now it's my turn to have some fun. I'm not going to spend my whole life locked up here, waiting for you, like a 1950s housewife." She said it with contempt, as if the very roof over her head were a prison. And I, her jailer, had to bite my tongue not to remind her that no one forced her to quit her job, that she was the one who decided to take time off to find herself, while I worked overtime to cover the gap her spiritual search had left. Enjoy what exactly? I asked, though I already knew the answer. Laura smiled with a crooked mouth. Going out, Mateo, feeling alive. Being with people who don't fall asleep at 10 p.m. because they're tired. People who know how to have fun. If you like your gray little life perfect, stay in it. But don't come at me with drama. There was again, drama. That's what she called any attempt I made to talk seriously. If I asked why she came home so late, drama. If I said it hurt that we no longer had intimacy, drama. If I tried to plan a dinner, just the two of us, drama. It didn't happen overnight. Of course not. At first it was small changes. More makeup for the office. Messages she answered with her back to me. Muffled giggles in the bathroom while texting on WhatsApp. The phone always face down on the table. Then came the Friday nights with the girls from work. The photos on social media where, curiously, the famous girls never appeared, but the cocktails, bars, and lights did. Later came the distance in bed. Her cold body turned toward the wall. "I'm not tired," became her mantra until I stopped even trying to hold her. That night, though, she didn't even bother pretending anymore. "And who are you enjoying it with?" I asked, locking eyes with her. She met my gaze defiantly. "None of your business," she replied dryly. "As long as your fridge is full, your bills are paid, and you have your little bed to sleep in, what more do you want?" Stop playing the victim. That's when I understood I wasn't talking to a woman I had fallen in love with anymore, but to someone who had learned to see me as an ATM with legs. I took a deep breath. Rage rose hot, demanding ice cream. Ripped the dress off her, go through her phone, demand names, places, times. But above the rage, something new broke through, a cold, unfamiliar calm that flowed through my chest like ice water. I stood up slowly, fully loosened my tie, and let it fall on the bed. She watched me challengingly, waiting for me to beg, to plead, to promise I'd change. Instead, I smiled, a smile that even surprised me. "Perfect, Laura," I said in a low, steady voice. "Enjoy it, because I swear to you, this will be the last time you do it as my wife." For the first time in a long time, her smile vanished, and right then, without her realizing it, my real enjoyment began. Laura stared at me as if she'd misheard. "What do you mean the last time as your wife?" She let out a nervous laugh. "Now you think you're a real man just because you finally spoke up, Mateo?" She walked toward me, so heavily perfumed it almost made me dizzy, and poked my chest with one finger as if testing whether I really meant it. "Don't make me laugh," she added. "You don't have the guts to leave. You're one of those guys who'd rather endure anything than be alone. Otherwise, you would have left years ago." I didn't reply. There was no point arguing with someone who mistook my patience for cowardice. I just looked at her, and that silence seemed to unsettle her more than any shouting could have. "I'm running late," she said, turning back to the mirror. "We can talk tomorrow if you want." Or never. Better. She grabbed her purse, the one I'd paid for two, and walked out of the room, heels clicking against the floor like hammer blows. I waited for the slam of the door, but there was only the soft click of the front door closing. That consideration, I thought, wasn't for me. It was for the neighbors, so she could keep up her facade of the perfect wife. I was left alone in the silence of the apartment, TV off, lights dim, her words still floating in the air. "I put up with you for years." I mentally reviewed those years. The birthdays I organized for her, the times I sold my own things to pay for her whims, the parties I skipped so I wouldn't bother her, the arguments I avoided so she wouldn't get stressed, everything now labeled endured. I went to the kitchen, poured myself a glass of water, leaned against the counter, and stared into nothing. Something inside me clicked. Not an explosion, just closure, like finishing a book and knowing you'll never open it again. I went back to the bedroom. On the nightstand was her charger, but not her phone. She had learned to always take it with her, ever since the time I accidentally saw a message from Julian that read, "Let me know when he's asleep." She had snatched the phone from my hand, as if I were the thief. "Don't invade my privacy," she had screamed. "Now, all my friends think you're jealous. Don't make me look worse than I already do." From that day on, privacy became her shield. Passcode on the screen. Phone always face down, notification silence when I was near, and I, like an idiot, accepted that everyone needs their space. That night, instead of a bed, I opened my laptop, not to spy on her, at least not at first, but to check our accounts. How much I earned, how much we spent, what was in her name, what was in mine. I had never looked at it calmly before. What I found left a bitter taste. Almost everything came out of my pocket. Last year's vacation, the subscriptions, the gym she no longer went to but still paid for, the car insurance of the car she almost never drove. Laura lived comfortably in a life she despised, supported by a man she claimed to have endured. I opened my almost abandoned social media. I didn't post photos, didn't comment. She, on the other hand, was an expert at posing as a happy wife. Breakfast in bed pics, candlelit dinners, couch selfies. She smiled in all of them, but I remembered perfectly that those photos were taken after big fights or tense moments. That was how she edited reality. I went to her profile. At first glance, nothing strange, but I started noticing details. The same names liking everything. Inside jokes from people I didn't know. And especially one, Julian Gomez, profile picture well-dressed, charming smile, the kind of guy who knows exactly how good-looking he is. His comments were subtle but persistent. "I know that smile. Don't tell everything. You'll run out of secrets. When are we repeating Friday night?" Never scandalous, but dripping with the disgusting complicity of someone who feels entitled to flirt because he knows he's not just a friend. I checked the dates. The Friday she supposedly went out only with the girls matched a photo of a wine glass with the caption, "Life is now." Underneath, Julian had written only confirmed, and she replied with fire emoji and a wink. Nothing that alone would be proof, but together with everything else, more than enough. My heart pounded, but no longer from jealousy. It was cold, almost mathematical indignation. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't imagining things. She was using me, lying to me, laughing at me in plain sight in front of everyone. I closed the laptop, took a deep breath, and looked at myself in the wardrobe mirror. Dark circles, furrowed brow, wrinkled shirt. I looked tired. Yes, but for the first time, I didn't look weak. No more, I said quietly to myself. I'm not going to keep being the clown in this story. That night, I didn't sleep much, but for the first time in years, it wasn't out of anguish. It was something else. I was planning, not some dramatic movie-style revenge, but something simpler and more final. Getting my dignity back, even if it meant destroying the perfect marriage facade she loved so much. And I started with the basics. I stopped telling her everything, just like she did with me. If I was going to disappear from her life, I'd do it in a way that hurt exactly where it mattered most to her, her comfort. Over the next few days, I didn't change anything abruptly. Living with Laura had taught me that sudden moves put her on the defensive. I needed her to feel safe, to keep thinking I was the same submissive, predictable Mateo as always. Inside, I was pulling away. Outside, I remained the routine husband. The first step was financial. During lunch break, I went to the bank and had my personal accounts separated from the joint one. I left only enough for basic monthly expenses: electricity, water, gas, nothing else. I canceled the additional card in her name, the one she used to buy clothes, because I deserve it, and pay for dinners I never knew who she shared them with. Are you sure you want to cancel it? The bank employee asked, looking at the screen. More sure than ever, I replied. The next day, the message arrived right on cue. Why isn't my card working? I'm at the store. Don't embarrass me, Mateo. I read it, left it on scene, and put the phone away. I was at the office in front of the computer, and for the first time in years, I prioritized my work over her tantrum. Half an hour later, answer me. What did you do with the card? I didn't reply until I was already on my way home. Just before arriving, I sent a short text. I canceled it. We spend too much. From now on, if you need something, we talk about it and buy it together. The typing dots appeared and disappeared several times before a reply finally came. You sick control freak. You should be ashamed. As if you're keeping me out of charity. I smiled with a calmness that would have surprised me weeks earlier. I am keeping you, Laura. Not as if I do and now it's over. That you despise it is your problem. She didn't answer again. When I got home, she was sitting on the couch, arms crossed, staring at the turned-on but silent TV. The real noise was her heavy breathing. Think you're funny? She said the moment I closed the door. You made me look ridiculous in front of everyone at the store. Who cancels a car without warning? I put down my keys, hung up my coat carefully. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't get upset. Someone who's tired of paying for other people's fun. I answered. Laura blinked confused. What other people? I held her gaze. Don't play dumb. I know you don't go to all those expensive places alone. I know you don't come home at 3 a.m. because you were just chatting with the girls. She let out an exaggerated laugh. Jealousy again. Seriously, Mateo, how pathetic. Who put that nonsense in your head? Your single friend who sees cheating everywhere. No one put anything in my head. I interrupted. You did. With your midnight messages, your Julian confirmed, your photos, your nights out, your lies. For the first time, I saw real discomfort on her face. Not guilt. Fear of losing control. You've been snooping through my things, she hissed. You're a stalker, a sicko, you're changing the subject. I said calmly, pointing at her, this isn't about privacy. It's about respect. And you broke that a long time ago. She jumped up. You don't have a single piece of proof. I laughed, and that laugh threw her even more off balance. I don't need proof to know you treat me like an obstacle while you play at feeling alive with someone else. But don't worry, I added, the proof isn't for me. It's for when you have to explain to other people who you really are. She frowned. What's that supposed to mean? I went to the dining room cabinet and pulled out neatly organized envelopes. Bank statements, printouts of posts and comments, the quote from a lawyer I had already consulted. I placed them on the table one by one. I mean, I've already spoken to a lawyer. I know exactly what I'm entitled to, what you're entitled to, and how bad an idea it is for you to keep pretending nothing's wrong. I mean that if you want to enjoy life, you'll do it on your own from now on. Without my money, without my house, without my last name. Her face went white. The arrogance slid off her like cheap makeup. You wouldn't dare, she whispered. I already started. I replied, card canceled, account separated, credit report requested. All that's missing is your signature. And believe me, Laura, if you make it difficult, I have no problem letting your parents, your friends, and your beloved Julian know exactly why we're splitting up. Her eyes flashed with rage. You're going to ruin my image, she said, hurt, as if that were the only thing that mattered. No, Laura, I answered wearily. You ruined your image. I'm just stopping the lie. She stood frozen, breathing hard. I saw the exact moment she stopped seeing me as a docile man and started seeing me as a real problem. You're not going anywhere, she spat. This house is mine too. I won't let you just walk away. I looked at her with a calm that only comes from having hit rock bottom. Don't worry, I said. I'm not leaving yet. First, I'm going to show you what it feels like to lose what you took for granted. The rest happened faster than I expected. The arguments escalated when she realized I was serious. She cried, screamed, called me selfish, accused me of ruining her life. Between theatrics and silence, she signed the divorce papers only when she understood she could no longer use my money and my name without consequences. You're throwing away 9 years, she said, eyes red. No, I replied. Just the last few, the ones you turned into a farce. The process was cold. Asset division, clear accounts, no photos saved. Her lawyer tried to get more, but the numbers were on my side. She kept some furniture in her car. I kept the peace of not owing anyone anything. The day I finally moved out of the apartment, Julian was waiting for her downstairs, leaning against his car, smiling. She took his arm as if nothing had happened. She didn't say goodbye, and she didn't need to. I walked with my light suitcase toward my new, small, quiet rented apartment. No yelling, no contempt, no lies. The divorce became official weeks later. That day I understood that losing her wasn't a tragedy. It was finally freedom.